Hello, and welcome to the Herald's Horn, episode number 38. On this one, Dan and I are talking about those new Universe Beyond booster prices. What's up with that? Normal standard sets have been for the last, not that long now, $5.50, but the Universe Beyond standard sets are going to be $7. What's up with that? We discuss it. We also talk about Arena Direct winners getting some maybe unexpected, but they should have expected letters in the mail, some nice emails in their inboxes. We're going to talk about that too. Of course, we're going to talk about Spider-Man as well, and still our hype for Tarkir. Don't worry, we talk about Vintage Cube a little bit too. Before we jump into the episode though, I want to remind you to come back on Tuesday to listen to the interview. Next week, I am joined by David, perhaps better known as My Hands Are Blank, and also Jacob to talk about their awesome Magic panel, Doodle, where community artists have to draw Magic cards from memory. It was a ruckus. It's fun to see something kind of new and fun in the scene. I wanted to pick their brain about that, what they're doing, what their ideas for the future are, how you even put together a MagicCon panel in the first place, all of that and more this coming Tuesday. Be sure to come back to this YouTube, this podcast feed. You are sure to love it. Now, let's get into the news. Thank you. Hello, it's time for the Herald's Horn, part of the One Shot Network. My name is Cal Jones, and today I am joined by the wonderful Dan. Say hello, Dan.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Mondadon MTG, a.k.a. Dan.
Also better known as Emma. Dan, what's... Dan, what's hip? What's happening? Welcome to the Magic the Gathering podcast.
Well, of course, as always, we have to describe what I'm wearing. I'm wearing a gray shirt today. I wore this especially for the podcast. I almost put on the pink Modanon one, and I was like, I know Cal will say something. I'll put on the gray one.
So that you could bring it up, because you knew I wouldn't mention a gray shirt.
Cal's still wearing all black.
Hey, there's some red on it. Black and red.
Okay, all right. Run the theme.
And welcome back. As always, we are going to jump directly into the news. First, I want to thank our lovely supporters over on Patreon, and especially our first chair patrons this week. That is Bald Rald. Thank you very much, Jerry, for your support of the show. Over on the Patreon, you can find exclusive content. You get first dibs on getting your burning questions answered in the letter to the editor segment. And of course, also you get to come into the Discord and argue with Dan. You have to pick a fight with Dan.
Well, I'll pick a fight with you if you don't pick a fight with me. I'm very argumentative.
We also have two different fun little stickers I'll send you in the mail. Logo one and one by Gold Sabertooth. It's a grand fun time. If you're interested, the link's in the bio, all that kind of fun stuff. All right. Let's jump into it. Universes Beyond sets, as we all know, they are coming to standard. Here's the kicker, though. It's turned out that they will be higher priced than their standard normal Universe Within, so to speak, counterparts. It was revealed that Final Fantasy and now also Spider-Man, both of those sets, standard legal Universe Beyond sets, will have play booster packs with an MSRP of $6.99. For reference, Tarkir Dragonstorm and presumably upcoming Edge of Eternities have an MSRP of $5.49 per play booster pack. Of course, this is all still crazy to me. A $5.49 play booster pack price is still insane to me, because back in my day, you went and burned down your local LGS if they dared even charge you $4 for a pack. Thoughts, Dan?
I was going to say $4 is where I was buying packs a few years ago, and it's like, wow, inflation really is a thing, isn't it?
It is really a thing. Actually, I'm being a little facetious here. I actually was very interested about the prices of packs kind of throughout history. So I did a real quick low level analysis and did a little write up about it over on the Herald's Horn Substack newsletter. And I also I looked at all the different pack prices the game has had throughout history, and then also inflation adjusted them then versus now. And We pay less per pack inflation adjusted wise than most times throughout history, relatively, except for basically like the price of the MSRP of packs was $3.99 from 2006 through 2019. That is a very long time.
Yeah.
And at the start of that, the relative price was like $6.39, which is more than $5.50. But by the time 2019, by the time they blew up MSRP, they stopped doing MSRP. That $3.99 price point would inflation adjusted be like $5.04 today. So it's just like, we're not actually all that far off from what the buying power has kind of always been, with the $5.49 pack cost for the Universe Within sets. $7 for Universes Beyond sets. It's not great. People have hopped into when I've complained about this online already, people have hopped into my replies and they'll be like, well, that's what Lord of the Rings was. Yeah. Unfortunately, we already have a standard that's set for us for like the premium summer set every year, like the Modern Horizon sets, the Masters sets, Lord of the Rings, all of these. Like, there's kind of always been, at least for the last decade, almost longer than a decade. The first Modern Master set was before 2015. That there is going to be a set in the summer that is kind of for more invested players than the standard sets are. And they are going to cost more money because they are a premium product. Mm-hmm. Lord of the Rings fell under that bundle. But I got to tell you, I was not expecting standard legal Universe Beyond sets to just be $1.50 more. It's not great. Is it like because of the licensing? Okay, I don't care. That's your cost for your product. I don't want to have to pay it for my standard legal packs. I want standard to be as accessible as possible. I think that's maybe the drum I beat most on this show over time, is that Magic is the best when more people can play standard. And
so Cal, yeah, before we remove the numbers from the Dason standard was bad counter, we're excited for standard about maybe a total of 2 to 3 months on this podcast. I think it's been like kind of since like Outlaws. It's been pretty cool. Okay, all right, maybe so I'm underselling it.
It's been a couple months, but
yeah. I mean, you're right, though. It is a real kick to get this, percentage-wise, a fairly massive increase in the MSRP of these products. Like, it's the only thing I can really hope is that the sets are bad, I guess, so that there's not like a great uncommon that's locked in these boxes that are just going to get way more expensive over time as people buy them and don't sell them.
And that's the kicker. Like, a lot of people go and look at a pack price and they have like some first level of thinking and they're like, oh, a more expensive pack. That doesn't matter. I just buy singles. Well, unfortunately, the only way we get singles is by someone having to buy a pack and open up that pack to get the singles from inside. And a higher pack cost means that it is more expensive to get that single in the first place. I can't imagine what a sealed event for a Final Fantasy or a Spider-Man event would cost. You need 6 packs. What's 6 times 7? I don't know. I don't know how to do math.
Don't make me do it. I mean, yeah, I would assume it's going to be roughly the same as it would be for like the premium set drafts, like $45, $50, whatever they are now.
And I think the frustrating thing is like that regardless of the price, these things probably will just sell like gangbusters because Final Fantasy and Marvel, specifically even Spider-Man, are probably about as popular of IPs as you could ask to have to throw onto the game, right? So, no lessons learned, probably. Standard will get more expensive again, and your local draft night at your LGS will die out because people already are upset about having to pay $20 for a draft, but now they're going to have to pay $25 for a draft, and
even beyond that, like if you are that person who's looking at singles, like it is going to be your LGS owner who's opening up the boxes and trying to get singles to stock up the store. And obviously, like they just can't afford to sell at a loss because that's not how you run a business. So somewhere down the line, if you want any of these cards, you are going to end up having to pay more for them than if they were a lower MSRP, unfortunately.
Yep. So I don't know. I guess it's just disappointing, and I wish it wasn't the case. I think like if it's tariffs, okay, whatever. It's just like 20% is just being added to their bottom line. Can't sell stuff at a loss. But from like all information that we have, this is purely a Universe Beyond set only change. Mark Rosewater said on his blog in response to a question, someone was like, hey, what's up with the higher price point? And Mark was like, oh, well, Universes Beyond products always have a higher price point, which, sure, just don't put it in my standard format, man.
Yeah. Okay, so to back up off that a little bit, to be a little bit less doomerism and alarmist,
yes.
How much do we think that this could feasibly increase the price of a standard deck? Because again, we were talking last week about Saffron Olive's handy little like chart of where the specific cards in the standard metagame decks were coming from. And I mean, there were a couple sets where it was like a fairly high percentage. But for the most part, it was like not too high. So I don't know. I guess it really all depends on what's in this set, though. Because if there's like a bomb land cycle or something like that, fingers crossed, we get fetches back in standard. Most expensive standard ever. Let's go.
Yeah, most expensive standard ever. Spider-Man has at long last. So Final Fantasy has the fetches for some reason.
Yeah,
and then Spider-Man has the other half of the Battle for Zendikar duels at long last.
Oh my gosh!
But they're at Mythic in a $7 booster product. No, it's hard to speculate about like how prices will actually change, but I mean, like, it's rough math in my head, like a 20%, it's like a 20% price increase on the packs, so maybe 20% expensive. I'm sure the prices won't go up 1-to-1, but I'm not trying to be that doomer about it. I'm accidentally being doomer about it. It's just something that is extremely frustrating.
Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, it is going to be an extra barrier for people getting into standard, which is supposed to be your flagship format, supposed to be easy to get into, something that someone could just walk into your LGS and want to take a part of. But yeah, I mean, you walk in and you try to tell someone, hey, like, normally you could buy 5 packs for $25, but these ones over here, which are for the same format, are going to, for some reason, cost you $35 for your 6 packs or whatever it is.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, that's Universes Beyond pricing. $7 packs. I don't even want to think about what the math on a box would be, even with like the normal discount you'd get for buying a whole box. I don't even want to think about that. I see a lot of people
pre-selling like LGSs for like $200, which is obscene for, again, a standard legal.
Back in my day, knees crumble, fall apart.
We used to spend $90.
I was going to say, I think I paid, when I first started buying booster boxes, I think I paid $95 plus tax.
I'm trying to think, because I only ever bought like the modern master boxes, but I think even then they were only like 150 or so, maybe more than that. I can't quite remember.
Me either. It's all crumbled away in this ancient brain. All I have left contained within is $7 booster pack bad.
I'm just thinking about Siege right now.
Hey everyone, quick editing Cal from the booth here. This upcoming topic, I misunderstood some of the conversation around it. I knew that you win 2 Arena Direct boxes per win. All of the discussion I saw around it online gave me the impression that people were being taxed $250 per box, not per win. They're being taxed $250 per win, which means $250 per MH3 box or $250 per 2 boxes of standard. A little more reasonable. I still think that a lot of people were blindsided by this and that Wizards could have been a little more upfront about it and people would feel better about it. Okay, now, hear our original conversation. Here you go. Well, Dan, talking about the cost of boxes. Arena Direct, if you are familiar, it's a cool arena event where you can participate. It's like a limited event. You play a bunch of matches. If you get the maximum number of wins, Wizards of the Coast will send a box of Magic cards to your house. They did it for Foundations. They did it for Duskmourn. They've done it for a few different sets now, and a lot of people, you know, it's kind of a fun event too because it's just kind of something you could like dip your toes in. You could give it a run or two. Hey, cool, you win a box. That's a decent amount of value right there, and in return for just playing some Magic. It's a good time. They've been a little slow to get them out to people, but here's the kicker. Prizes in the United States of America are something that are taxable. And a lot of Arena Direct winners from the last year are just being reminded of that because Wizards of the Coast has sent out tax forms to every single person who won something on Arena Direct. And it is fun. I forget, like, at some point, if you've only won like 2 of them or something, that'll get you under the value where you don't really even have to report it and worry about it. I am not an advisor. Don't listen to me.
Oh God, yeah, please.
I am not a financial professional. That is not advice. But and a lot of people were kind of expecting this. What people were not expecting was that Wizards listed the value of every box they sent out at $250. So a bunch of people who spent a lot of time drafting and winning a lot of boxes and then reselling them got a nice tax form for Wizards of the Coast that adds like, I don't know, $6,000 to their taxes unexpectedly this year, which is just insane. $250 for a booster box? Hello?
I mean, yeah, it's not like that we're talking about, like, I don't think people are receiving collector boxes for this, right?
They're getting... like you are getting play booster boxes of standard legal sets.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to be generous, shipping is a part of that, but then where is the other $190?
Literally, a play booster is $550. And there are 36 boosters in a booster box. If we times 550 times 36, what do we get? It's $198. And that's nowhere near what like you could maybe even call the reasonable value of a play booster box is, even though the MSRP is $550, because like if you wanted to buy a Foundations booster box right now, it's $150 on Amazon. And I'm sure an Arena Direct winner would love to sell you the same box for cheaper, you know? So it is very funny. I feel like this is another thing of like Wizards just accidentally like finding a cool new thing and immediately nipping it in the bud for dedicated people who are excited about it. Cause there was a lot of now like limited aficionados who had like kind of plan their weekend around when these Arena Direct events were going to come around, or week around when these Arena Direct events were coming out, and then like try to win as many boxes as they could so they could post the picture on Twitter and then, you know, also resell them and make some money. But now that the info is out there that Wizards very well may ding you $250 per box on your taxes, I don't know how many enthusiastic participants there will be in the Arena Direct anymore.
No, I mean, it's essentially adding another fee onto playing these games if you're going to do well.
Literally. Yes, literally. $250 on your taxes, and then you sell it for $140, which you also theoretically should be reporting on your taxes. I don't know how that all adds up. I don't know how you figure all of that out, but it doesn't sound like a good deal to me.
No, it sounds like you would not come out positively on that transaction.
Which, like, yeah, I knew that. I figured that people would be getting tax forms for these. A lot of people do forget that even prizes of physical value do end up having to go on your taxes if you're doing everything above board. But, man, 250x. If it was even 200, I would say, man, Wizards, doing the MSRP times pack price for the price of these booster boxes is a little much. Yeah,
like at least there would be the correlative that you could make, though, right?
Yeah, like, if it said $196, a lot of people would roll their eyes, but they'd say, okay, that is play booster pack price, MSRP, times 36.
But this is like clearly, like, you made that number up. Someone asked you if you had something in the back, and you walked in the back, and you were like, yeah, 250.
Well, I think what really happened is some genius was like, holy moly, look at all of this product we could write off if we gave it to a bunch of suckers through Arena.
R.I.P. suckers.
And have we mentioned that the taxable value that we're writing off for each of these boxes is $250? Again, I don't know how taxes work. If I've been wrong about taxes this entire time, you should comment below. Thank you. In the Spotify comments specifically. That's where Dan will argue about it.
I'm always watching the Spotify comments like a hawk.
Yep. So that's just kind of a funny thing that happened this week. I don't even know if it's like a good or a bad thing. It just struck me as very funny. I saw a lot of people on Twitter just being like, wait a second. What do you mean Wizards of the Coast sent me a tax form for $3,250? What are we talking about here?
What an upsetting letter to get in the mail. As a person who receives many upsetting letters in the mail, That's gotta be top tier. Wizards of the Coast is sending me a letter. What the hell is? Oh my, what?
Exactly. All right, a little more fun news, especially for Dan. The Vintage Cube is returning to Mitgo next week. At time of release, the update information about like what cards they're bringing in, what cards they're bringing out will go live on mtgo.com. That is Friday, March 7th. That is when the update information will go live. And then the cube itself will go live next Wednesday. That is the 12th with for normal league play. But fun. They are doing a free like best of one preview league that you can play in on Monday and Tuesday, March 10th and 11th. And they will even you get a free entry to that by using code 2025 March in the store. It'll give you enough like draft points to play in the preview league, the best of one preview league once. So, hey, if you've never played Vintage Cube before, as always, we would heavily recommend trying it out. Dan, I did want to ask you really quick if there was like some dream changes that were going to come through on Friday for you. Is there anything that like really stands out that you really hope and wish leaves mainly?
I'm trying to think of like what the last iteration of Cube on MTGO exactly was, because I watch so much Cube content on YouTube of people that have like very slightly different cubes. But I don't remember anything terribly offensive, because like we've gotten rid of initiative at this point, which is like one of the more egregiously powerful things that isn't like power and stuff. This next update, I think, is mainly going to be Ether Drift, and I'm not sure if there is actually any other new sets that we've gotten since the last update. So I would assume that this one is probably just going to be the introduction of the rest of the Verge lands, and I think there's one or two like Vintage Cube playables in this set. So I wouldn't expect anything super drastic. And yeah, I think the last iteration of Cube was like pretty healthy as far as I remember. I don't think that was... Yeah, no, the Consultation Cube was like a limited time thing. I think the last iteration of Cube was like pretty nice, so I'm excited to get back to it. I'm excited to have better mana fixing options and whatever else was in Ether Drift that I'm not remembering right now that might be really cool to play with.
So to say, there's, yeah, like you said, there's like obviously the Verges, and past that, I don't think anything super jumps out at me from what I can personally remember as being.
I can imagine them putting in like Mendicant or something for the artifact archetype. Like they're going to try something that's like they're just going to put a bunch of cards in there that don't necessarily belong.
New cards in there as they always do. I mean, like maybe there's like a world where Unstoppable Plan, the enchantment, 3-drop, blue, beginning of your end step, untap all non-land permanents you control. That could do something. Maybe the different Gear Hulks could be cool.
Yeah, the Gear Hulk was something I was thinking about too. Like at least the green-white one has some pretty interesting implications since you can get Moxes.
Yep. Definitely. You can get Moxes, you can get plenty of other really powerful stuff. Maybe you play the Artifact Birthing Pod Repurposing Bay.
Oh, I forgot about that one. That's kind of interesting.
Maybe that ends up in there. It is a little pricey, but it does good stuff. I think the weird thing with the Gear Hulks maybe is that like there's always enough bombs in Vintage Cube, and that's kind of just like what the Gear Hulks are. It's just like, I guess they could just take out other bombs and put in Gear Hulks, you know?
Yeah, because it's not like you're going to cast that Selesnya Gear Hulk. Like you're going to like, I don't know, Shallow Grave it or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then you just have a big dude and your opponent can't kill it, and then they concede because the game's over no matter what big dude you put into play type of vibe. But hey, excited to have Vintage Cube back. I'll probably try to get in a couple leagues this time around. I try to every time it comes around, or maybe I'll do what we did like 3 Vintage Cubes where I just watch Dan draft and yell at him.
Well, you and I, before the last Vintage Cube went off, talked about getting on a stream and doing it together sometime. So I would like to propose that idea again. Well, no, it went off like the day after I asked you if you wanted to do it.
Oh, classic. Yeah, sure. All right, so, Dan, I'm sure we could figure that out.
Yeah, viewers keep an eye out. It'll happen at some point.
It'll happen, and we'll stream it live on the Tolarian Community College YouTube page.
Yeah.
I'll ask the prophet. He'll be fine with it.
2 very different stories.
Wow, we're really doing great today, Dan. This podcast is going awesome. All right, that's all we have for the news. It's a little bit of a lighter news week. You can tell by the way that like the universe beyond prices was the only real thing we had to talk about. Let's move on to the next section of the show. It's time for the letter to the editor. Welcome to the letter to the editor. It's the part of the show where you can write in and we will answer your questions. If you want to submit your very own letter to the editor, Patreon supporters, of course, get number one priority. All of our questions so far have come from there, from our letter to the editor thread. But you can also email me, editorial@heraldshorn.com. I would love to get your email, and we would love to talk about your problems, your questions, your statements, all of the above. This week, our letter to the editor comes from beloved patron Dusty Cupboards, who asks, what is the most you would consider spending on a single Magic card or piece of Magic related memorabilia? What is your Grail card or item? I'll go first. The most I've ever spent on a Magic card is probably the most I'm ever going to spend on a Magic card. I bought a minty unlimited Tropical Island from a friend for $600 years ago. I just graduated college. I just got my first big boy job. He was moving. He was liquidating some of his cards, and I said, okay, I'll buy that from you. That was the first duel I had. It's still the Tropical Island I have. It is less minty now because I play my Magic cards.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you still had it. That's really cool.
Oh, it is single sleeved in my Najeela deck, my guy.
Oh, you're breaking my heart.
I've become a single sleever. I don't
For your
care.
Unlimited.
Yeah.
We won't get into it because I'll just cry.
Look, it's a Magic card that I bought to play, and I'm playing it, Dan. Okay. If I ever resell it, that's fine. I'll take the $300 loss. But I think that is maybe the most I would ever spend. And I have done it. And then what is my Grail card or item? I did recently get what was kind of my Grail. It is a deck of poker cards from 1997 that was sent out to DCI loyalty rewards members. It's just a poker deck with the official Magic the Gathering card back on it. I'm sure plenty of other poker decks that look like that out there in the world exist, but these ones are one of the two sets ever officially made by Wizards of the Coast. So very excited.
That is incredibly cool.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's super sick. My new Grail item, which I will definitely never own because it is extremely expensive. I would love to own the WotC Minotaur jean jacket. That they gave to employees in the early days of Magic. They're just super sick. So I think those are my answers. Recently achieved a Grail. Spent the most I will ever spend on a Magic card years ago. And technically, I spent more than that on my UC, but I traded in a ton of cards and spent $50 cash on it, which feels a little different to me. But anyways.
No, I agree. Yeah.
I shredded a bunch of cardboard and turned it into an Underground Sea, which is single sleeved in my Najeela deck right now, along with my 8 other duels.
That's crazy.
I've got my single sleeve set. Riffle shuffle. I don't riffle shuffle. All right, Dan.
Just unsleeve them and put them with fucking rubber band.
I'm pretty careful. I just got so tired of shuffling double sleeve decks all the time. I couldn't.
You got big hands. You're always complaining about game controllers being too small.
Well, look, I'm lazy and I enjoy the feel of shuffling a single sleeve deck much more than a double sleeve deck. So I said, whatever.
Your cards, I guess.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Dan, what about you?
Yes. I used to be a very, very serious collector of Magic cards. I have bought and sold many, many expensive cards. The most I have ever spent on a card was either, I don't know, it would have been within $10 or $20 of each other between my revised Underground Sea and a collector's edition Time Twister. The first one that I bought, I was going to repeat your very, very minty, but the first one that I bought was not minty enough, and I sent it back to Card Kingdom, and I was like, no, I want a scan of something different. You must have something mintier than this. So yeah, I think it was somewhere between the range of like $550 and $570 on either one of those, which is way more than I would spend on a Magic card in this day and age. Holy Grail cards. We chatted about this real quick before we started recording, and I was thinking about maybe Mishra's Workshop was something that I always wanted for EDH and never got. But actually, I think if I'm thinking of like real Holy Grail cards, probably something rarer than that. I'm a very big Portal 3 Kingdoms nerd, and I've always wanted to have an English copy of Imperial Steel. Would be like a very fun one. I mean, there's tons of really cool cards in that set, though, but that's probably the one that I play the most often.
I was going to say, Imperial Seal has, like, the crossover with your CDH history, basically is only played there. Yeah.
And it's honestly, that's, like, as much as I like, nearly foiled out my, like, Grixis cast deck at one point with, like, Masterpiece lands and Invention, Soul Rings, and all the, like, 9 yards. But I never, ever bought an Imperial Seal, because, like, before it got reprinted in Double Masters, I was like, it'll get reprinted someday. There's no way I'm spending this much money on a Magic card. So, yeah, I guess
right.
I really was at my limit with the Time Twister.
Yeah.
I wasn't willing to spend, I think it was, like, 700 or something once upon a time for one of those. Might even still be.
Oh, I think it's more than that.
Yeah.
These days. Twister just keeps going up and up. If I had a Grail card at this point, Twister is the one for me. Like an attainable Grail. You know, I would love to own a Black Lotus for a litany of reasons, but that will simply never happen. So, you know, if I ever was to shake out the piggy bank and have a really good job and save up for 4 years for a Magic card or whatever, it would be a Twister. But mainly just because it's a really cool, really old card that I also can play in my single sleeve Ninjila deck.
I don't know. If I had enough money to buy a Time Twister right now, I'd probably just like buy a new water heater or something.
I was about to say, yeah, like if I had enough money to buy a Time Twister, I would pay off my student loan debt. I don't know. All right. Speaking of buying Magic the Gathering cards, let's go ahead and move on to the part of the show where we talk about all of the new cards that are coming out soon that you could indulge in buying. It's time for the Product Watch. Product Watch. Welcome to the Product Watch, the part of the show where we talk about all the upcoming cards that you could so choose to indulge in by buying. There's one really big piece of news this week, and that is we're showing off another set already. We've got Tarkir Dragonstorm first look. We've got Magic the Gathering : Final Fantasy first look, and now we have a first look at Magic : The Gathering line divider, Marvel's possessive Spider-Man, the registered trademark, the upcoming Magic the Gathering set you will not want to miss, featuring $7 play boosters, really $42, $38 collector boosters. It's Spider-Man. Marvel has arrived here in Magic the Gathering, and this set will have no commander decks. That was the shocking part to me, actually. No commander decks for Marvel Spider-Man.
Seems very like an interesting thing to not, I don't know. It just seems there's nothing that's really equates superheroes and commanders, but it feels like those two things share an ethos to me. They have a similar aura.
I would agree. And it seems like the Universe Beyond commander decks have been extremely popular historically. I do wonder if it was like a licensing issue. They bought Marvel Spider-Man for one product, and that is the booster product. Or whatever. Another really notable thing about this is that starting with Spider-Man, they are retiring the Universes Beyond frame. If you have paid close attention, listener, Universe Beyond cards had a kind of unique frame that was most notable by the hollow foil stamp that you have on rares and mythics. Every single Universe Beyond card had a stamp on it, and it was a flat-ish upside-down triangle. And that is how you could tell it was a Universe Beyond card. I guess as part of a push to kind of continue equating Universe Beyond cards with Universe Within cards, Spider-Man, it's just going to have normal frames, no stamps on the commons and uncommons, the normal circular hollow foil stamp on the rares and mythics, and it's just going to come with, I'm sure, all of their own normal kind of treatments and stuff, but a normal, plain old common that you open in a pack will look like any other Magic the Gathering card. Which is an interesting change too. I personally have liked the delineation in between Universe Beyond and Universe Within cards for a litany of reasons that we could go into. So I'm kind of sad to see this goes. Interesting technology, but I also am not too mad about a certain level of more complexity and visual confusion and all that kind of stuff being removed from the game as well. Split mind.
Yeah, it's certainly helpful from like an EDH player standpoint where like so often I'm like, what card did you just play? And then I don't know, for some reason someone being like, it's a Unit versus Beyond card quells it in me. I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll accept anything then.
Yeah, whatever you want. Whatever you need. The no commander decks, though, to me is a little bit weirder than this. I would love to be like a fly on the wall to learn why their most popular product line would not be here with the release of a standard set, but I am not going to complain about it because less commander precons I think is pretty good in my book. I have enjoyed the change from every set getting 4 to most sets having 2. I have felt like 2 for every set has been a little bit more of a sweet spot, but also the occasional set not having any at all, I am perfectly okay with.
Yeah, there was a certain point where the saturation was just so high that, yeah, it really felt like we were like drowning in commander products, which honestly makes the game a lot less fun, I think, because like I was thinking about this recently where like there used to be a sort of thing like when we would get the Masters products of like, oh, this like strange archetype that's never really had a really fitting commander before now has a very fitting commander for what this archetype wants to do and has a clear direction of where it wants to go. But now there's just no archetype left, no stone left unturned where that doesn't just have its own perfect commander that does everything you want for 4 mana.
Yeah, I think that's like something we've talked about on the show a little bit before, maybe it was an interview, but like there used to be a very like shared community feeling around Commander where since it wasn't the focus of larger Magic, getting cards to play, especially for like the whole format, like must play cards were pretty rare. And then the shared focus of the format was around the annual Commander decks when there suddenly would be 80 cool new cards to play or whatever, and most of them were geared toward Commander, and there would be 8 new cool commanders that were really specifically designed for Commander to mess around with and stuff. And now, like you said, it's just like every single archetype has its perfect commander, or borderline does. Every single archetype gets more and more role players very specifically printed for it, seemingly all the time. It's a different kind of problem to have. I think that the main problem I had with so many commander decks all the time was like, that was when I finally felt like I lost the beat of knowing every Magic card, which is like a dumb assumption to have and a deal to hold to. But I feel like even in the past couple of years when we were getting an extra set or so per year, if there weren't also 4 commander decks with every single one that had 20 new cards in each of them or whatever, it would have been a little easier for me and other invested Magic fans to keep up with everything.
Yeah, I mean, the sheer number of cards coming out in Standard and everything was like certainly an issue, but that was like such an influx of cards that like seemed so uncontrollable of like, yeah, I feel the exact same way. That was sort of like when I lost the reins of like having like what I would refer to as like an encyclopedic knowledge of Magic the Gathering.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's the kicker, Dan. I do actually like Spider-Man as a property quite a bit, so it was fun to see the cards that they showed off. They showed off a scene box, which listeners may remember was something they did for Lord of the Rings holiday release, in which all of the cards combined together to make a really cool panorama display. If you put them all together, all their arts kind of fit together. This one featured Spider-Man, Venom, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and also some pumpkin bombs and some of Doc Ock's tentacles as the 6 cards included in the scene box. Notably, these cards are not standard legal, and I believe also only come in the scene box, though they probably also come in collector boosters or something in foil or blah, 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 right? They will all be available together for the price of $41.99. I really like the Spider-Man. He puts stun counters on things, and then you can remove up to 3 stun counters and then like draw cards, which is kind of fun. And
it was blue-white too, which I thought was kind of interesting, but also I think probably makes sense given like his personality and everything. But yeah, very interesting card. Thought it was cool.
Okay, yes. Whenever Sensational Spider-Man attacks, tap target creature defending player controls and put a stun counter on it. Then you may remove up to 3 stun counters from among all permanents. Draw cards equal to the number of stun counters removed this way. So, hey, gamers out there, all of you stun counter lovers who didn't have your commander for your archetype yet, great news.
Fear of paralysis demon enjoyers rejoice. The Doc Ox sorcery looked pretty cool too. It's like a tinker from your graveyard, I want to say.
Yeah, let me pull it up really quick here. The grasping tentacles, 1 blue and a black sorcery. Target opponent mills 8 cards. You may put an artifact card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So it's like you get to do it from your opponent's graveyard, which is neat,
I missed the part that his opponent's a little bit weaker, I guess.
Yeah, Doc Ock himself is so funky. He's a 7-drop Dimir as well. He's an 8/8. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target non-creature artifact you control becomes an 8/8 robot villain artifact creature in addition to its other types. Hey, great news, everyone. We're making a lot of 8/8s. That's crazy. And it's not until end of turn. It is permanently the artifact becomes
that's
an
kind
8/8.
of fun. I like that. I think that's fun.
Yeah, it just pumps out some 8/8s every turn. My favorite card actually from this was, though, the pumpkin bombs. One and a red artifact. Tap, discard 2 cards, draw 3 cards, then put a fuse counter on this artifact. It deals damage equal to the number of fuse counters on it to target opponent. They gain control of this artifact. So you can it's kind of like a humble defector that you have to discard cards for, and it starts hurting people. And the more people draw cards off of it, the more it hurts them. It's kind of cute.
It's interesting. I don't understand that being the pumpkin bomb or whatever, but
no, I don't really get the flavor of it either, but it's a cool design. And it does also, it coincides with the Green Goblin. It's a 4-drop Rakdos, 3/3 flyer. Whenever you discard a non-land card, you put a +1/+1 counter on him. Oh, sorry, not on him. On target goblin you control. So any goblin. And then whenever you discard a land card, you can create a tapped treasure token. So it works together with the pumpkin bombs to, pump up the goblin. The tentacles, if you reanimate some artifacts and they aren't creatures, you can make them into creatures with Doc Ock. It's kind of cute. Venom's also here. He exiles stuff from graveyards. What else do you want from me?
Yeah, no mutate.
Yep, no mutate. Though it was pointed out that mutate is onto non-human creatures, so that would be a flavor fail.
It indeed would, yeah.
But it would be fun to see mutate ever return. I'm a mutate fan.
No, it wouldn't. I disagree
I'm a
with
mutate
that
fan.
Opinion. Oh my gosh.
It was
a mutate hater.
It was very strange to me to see them show off 6 Spider-Man cards that are just immediately non-standard legal. But hey, whatever.
Yeah, I can't imagine why that was the... Well, I guess maybe because these are maybe like a little bit more EDH focused than the standard set is going to be. Not to say that like standard is ever not like thinking about EDH all the time. But these are like, I guess, a few commanders you could think about in the meantime before we see more of the set get spoiled.
And still here in the product watch, it's the Tarkir waiting room. We're here waiting for Tarkir. The story has started. Seems like a little bit of a barn burner. People are really excited for it. I'm going to sit down and try to read some of it this week. There is going to be 7 main stories this time around, and also 5 side stories. It seems like each of the side stories, we already have the Obzan one, I believe. Each of the side stories, it looks like, are going to focus on kind of what's going on with the kind of people on the ground in each of the different clans in this post-Dragon Lord, invasion of Phyrexia version of the world that we now find ourselves in. So pretty excited about that. Pretty excited to see some more Tarkir cards. But I think that I'll have to wait for another episode.
I'm excited to see them investing in the storyline, though. It's one of the great parts of this game, and love to see more writers getting work.
Me as well. Dan, I think that's everything we have for this episode of the Herald's Horn. So is there anything else that you would like to leave our listeners with before we go?
Let's see. If you are listening to this on the date of release, I'm going to be helping a charity stream this weekend for Trans Lifeline. We're trying to raise $100,000. It starts on Friday, March 7th, and there's going to be a whole plethora of people streaming and guesting on this, all sorts of prizes to be had. My segment will be on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/moderately anonymous MTG at 10:30 a.m. We're going to be streaming until noon, and we'll be, raiding into the rest of the stream, so there's stuff going on all weekend, so go hang out, and if you got a little bit extra scratch, I'll be posting links to where you can donate on my socials.
Very cool. I will also put your It's going to be on your Twitch, right?
Yeah.
I will put your Twitch link in the podcast description, all that kind of stuff. Make it easy for people to find that. Follow Dan. Then you will know when they go live as a part of that. It's a very cool initiative. I hope it goes well. $100,000. It's a lot of money.
Yep. We're shooting for a big goal, and hopefully we achieve it.
Definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that, Dan. Thank you for listening, everyone. Once again, there is no interview after this because the interviews are, at least for the foreseeable future, come back on Tuesday, where I'm going to be joined by David, also known as My Hands Are Blake, and of course, good buddy, friend of the show, Jacob Paris, to talk about their panels that they have started doing at MagicCon, their doodle panels. I wanted to pick their brain about what they're doing, what they have going on with those. So if you are interested in that, I will see you on Tuesday. But until next time, thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you have feedback, would like to sponsor us, or would like to submit something to the Letters to the Editor segment, email me at editorial@heraldshorn.com. The show is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Cal Jones. The rest of the team is, of course, our co-hosts, Emma Partlow, Dan, better known as Moderately Anonymous MTG, and Lexi, better known as Black Girl Mage. We're having so much fun making this show. I hope you're enjoying listening to it. We'll see you next week.